There we go. Hi, Facebook. Hello, everybody. Happy Friday. Bree with Apollo here. This is Beyond the Steps. It's Friday at 2. We just joined our friends on Instagram. We have everybody going on Zoom and Facebook. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. We have another great episode today. And I was telling our friends on Instagram, we often on the show talk about other important ways to train our bodies as athletes, mind, body, and soul, outside of the normal technique classes and cross training and other things that we can do in our everyday lives to support our training and make sure that we're able to sustain the rigors physically and mentally that come with dance training. And this is one of those episodes today. We're talking about why is it important to incorporate breath work into our training for dancers. And we have Dr. T. Doman here with us. I'm going to tell you all about her in just a minute. But we're going to explore this. And I know for me, this is a newer topic, something I've learned about in the last year from Dr. T. But also, I know I wouldn't have known about this when I was young, when I was a dancer coming up. And so I think, for those studio owners that are interested in exploring, or directors or educators, or even parents or dancers that want to explore this, but maybe don't know where to start or don't know enough about it, this is a great time to learn. So make sure you share this episode. As always, this is conversational. We want to hear from you. So pop your questions and comments in the chat, and I will make sure to field those for you and get answers by the end of the episode. So I want to get started and introduce Dr. Tanya Doman, DPT, CSCS. We're going to call her Dr. T for all intents and purposes, but she's multi-credentialed rehab specialist and fitness professional. Her passion is wellness, especially prevention, which we love to the extent possible, because we can't always prevent it from happening, but injury risk management, right? So management of chronic diseases through evidence-based lifestyle hacks, including things she's learned and experienced herself with her own health journey. She discovered she had an invasive cancer 8 months ago, and she has been going through treatment for that. Is so brave. She's a warrior. But small sustainable activities are important, like activating the parasympathetic nervous system, response to lower stress and inflammation, and promoting immunity and healing. So she does telehealth consults, instructor mentoring, and offers popular virtual coaching plans to those who want to live their healthiest lives. And we're going to tell you all about how you can access Dr. T and her services at the end of the episode. But Dr. T, thanks so much for being here. I appreciate you.
Thank you for having me, Bree. I'm really
Yeah.
excited. I love to talk about this. And when we've done our IG lives in the past, when I've done the wellness series on Fridays, there's so much information that I'm glad we're continuing to talk about it. The more that we talk about it, just increases awareness.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, thank you for being here. I do have to note, my fabulous co-host, Melissa McDaniel, is not here today. She's in Cancun, so don't feel too bad for her. But we
Nice.
miss her. Shout out to Melissa. We'll see her back here next week. But Dr. T, you've gone through a lot of ups and downs. We talked about it a little bit in your own health journey. And one of the things you really focus on in training is the importance of small sustainable activities, things that you can carry on, throughout your life that aren't impossible to maintain, right? So for
Right.
dancers, do you think those small activities like breath work, like what we're talking about today, have a tendency to get overlooked in favor of the bigger things? And if so, why do you think that is?
I do think so. I think that breath work, it just seems it seems almost innocuous or benign, or it's so passive when it really isn't. It's to focus on the breath just seems just small work type
It
of a
does.
thing.
It does. It's like I have so many big things to focus on. I can't even give this my time right now, but it makes a big
Right.
difference.
It does. And I equivalent it to, remember when warm-ups weren't really a
Yes.
thing before, and especially in my classes, I would have dancers say, I'm just here to dance. Why are we doing this? Let's get going. And now we don't even call it, actually the standard, we don't call it warm-up anymore. We call it
Yep.
movement prep.
Yep.
And we all do it. It's
Yep.
the standard. You don't just jump into the activity. So we do spend that time, 5-7 minutes in the beginning doing movement prep. It's now
Absolutely.
accepted.
Yeah. And hopefully these small things, these small hacks that we're going to talk about today are going to become more normalized for people too. And we're going to talk about all the benefits. So let's start with the basics, because we're all about that on this show. We're all about education, and I'm learning right along with everybody else. So, will you define, I know it seems silly, but define breath work in the sense of an exercise, define breath work for us, and what exactly does it mean to do breath work?
Well, we could, as I said at the beginning of our chat, we could talk about this for hours, but
I know.
I just wanted to give you the Reader's Digest
Yeah.
version of it. And one word, it would be awareness.
Yep. Okay.
Awareness of the breath. So, and we're going to get into and talk about the parasympathetic nervous system, autonomic nervous system, all that stuff. But these are things that happen in our body without us thinking about it. So, our breathing happens. I don't have to think about our breathing. I don't have to, like digestion, I don't have to think about digestion when we're having it. So it's that awareness of what my breath is like, and realizing all the other different body systems and the role in our overall health that breath work provides. So breath work is awareness and cultivating a good inhale and exhale.
Got it. And that really puts every part of your body on the same page into what is that it kind of brings every part of your body together to really work together in what you're doing at the time. Is that right?
Absolutely. It affects almost all of our major body systems. And in my classes and in working with my clients and patients, I remind them of all the different body systems. It's just not the respiratory system, but the musculoskeletal system, the endocrine system, our hormones, our lymphatic system, cardiovascular system. I mean, we could just go on and on.
Yeah. So when you are engaging in that, in breath work, and you're focused on breath work, and you're making that a part of your daily routine and your training, is it something that can make you, I wouldn't want to say it's going to make you better at what you're doing, but it's going to make you more efficient, right? Would that be fair to say?
You could actually say, and we'll talk about evidence too,
Yeah.
we have so much to talk about. You could actually say it will make you better. They have tied in the research breath work and improved breathing to increased performance.
Interesting.
Yes.
Okay.
And immunity. So we're looking, the immunity is a big buzzword now, especially since the pandemic. So those two things, increased performance and increased immunity, that's huge.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. And and we're not just talking about things like viruses, but we're talking about people that have, like I have autoimmune issues. I have lupus. I have thyroid issues. We've talked to people on the show that struggle with endometriosis flare-ups and things of that nature. And so when we're talking about immunity and making sure our immune systems are strong, that's a great benefit, which I wouldn't have even realized until you said that. So thank you.
Right.
Your bio talks, you just mentioned it again, about activating the parasympathetic nervous system. What is that exactly, right? We all know what a nervous system is, but why is it important that we understand how to activate the parasympathetic nervous system in times of stress?
Sure, because anything that we do in terms of breath work, it's actually cumulative. So the more that we do it, the more repetition, the more practice, we actually get better. So in our nervous system, we have something I referred to a couple minutes ago as the autonomic nervous system. And that nervous system has two parts. So one part is the parasympathetic nervous system. The other part is the sympathetic nervous system. So these two systems handle all the regulatory actions in our body without us having to think about it. It just happens.
Right.
The problem with athletes, exercisers, just people in modern day society is we too easily go into the sympathetic nervous system. That is the fight or flight response. That's an increase of adrenaline, cortisol. If you have work issues, if you have personal issues, if you have traffic, even exercise can put you into that sympathetic nervous system. And our bodies, our nervous system, this part in particular, is not emotional. So it's not rational. It doesn't say, well, Bree's just having a hard time in traffic right now, or Bree is being chased by a bear in the woods. It doesn't know the difference. So what happens is we spend a prolonged period of time under the sympathetic nervous system influence, and that creates chronic stress and inflammation in the body.
Got it. Okay. Because it
when
can't,
we
obviously it can't differentiate, between
right
a real
right
emergency and a really adrenaline filled situation versus a
yeah,
normal everyday occurrence.
correct.
Okay.
So when we activate the parasympathetic nervous system, because we're sort of out of practice and we spend most of our time automatically in this automatic autonomic sympathetic nervous system state, when we go into the parasympathetic nervous system state, that's when we can slow down our breathing, we can slow down our heart rate, we can increase oxygenation. We increase, is that echo, by the way, on
I think
my
so. That
side or
might
your
be on
side?
yours. I'm trying to make sure the volume's down. Just turn your volume on your phone down,
Okay.
down a little bit. There we go.
Okay. How about that?
A little bit more.
A little bit more?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
There you go. There you go. You're good.
Yay. So back to the parasympathetic nervous system. So when we activate it, there's this major nerve, and without getting too anatomical in here, it's called the vagus nerve. And I mention it because you may see some articles or references or things on the internet talking about vagal nerve tone. And just know that that's the nerve, this large nerve coming from our brain stem that regulates the parasympathetic nervous system. And when we activate that vagal tone, then we can create a less stressful environment in our body, and we can breathe better and increase performance, increase immunity, increase oxygenation, all those things that we want. We don't want to spend the majority of our day in a sympathetic nervous system state.
Right. Because that's not fun and it makes you crazy after a while. So yes,
it does.
Absolutely.
Well, and even I think as women, especially, not to be gender biased, but we do have this feeling like we have to do it all. And we pride ourselves in almost being busy. We're so busy, we're doing this and that and whatever. And it's actually, and I'm the same way, we're doing 3 things at the same time, but over time, it's going to have an impact on our health. And I'm realizing now, do we know? We'll never know what specifically caused my cancer, if it was one thing or a number of things, but stress is directly linked to chronic diseases like autoimmune disease and cancer and diabetes, those things that we don't want.
It's my number one. I mean, I know. I wonder every day, and what am I doing to my body because of the amount of stress I'm carrying for the consistently for the last couple of years, right? Like you don't know. You don't know the impact of what it's doing. It's doing something though, right? We have enough evidence-based research to show that stress really does impact our health. Is that what sort of impact does breathing and focus on the vagal nerve and the parasympathetic nervous system, what does it have on an athlete, specifically a dancer, physically and or mentally? What is that impact? What is that difference in an athlete that practices and engages in breath work and an athlete that does not?
Well, I think there's a dearth or an absence of research that's specifically towards dancers. It's getting better.
It's really bad. There's not enough. Yeah.
No, but we're recognizing now that dancing is a sport and dancers are athletes, even if they're not competitive, even if they're just recreational, it's still a sport. You're still athletes. So we can sort of extrapolate from the research that they're doing on runners and other people. And what they found, this research from a couple of years ago is really fascinating, that when runners fatigue, it's not because of their leg muscles. It was because of the respiratory muscles not being properly trained.
Really?
So that affected them. Yes, that affected them in their performance. You or I would think, oh, it's their leg muscles, or maybe they need to do more specific training. They need to do more specific breathing training.
Wow. And absolutely, you could attribute that to dancers. I mean, dancers are the toughest athletes in the world for sure. So,
right.
Yeah, I love that. If you're just joining, welcome. This is Beyond the Steps. We're chatting today with Dr. T. Doman, and we're talking about why it's important to incorporate breath work into training for dancers. It's one of those tools I don't think we focus on enough. I think it's one of those things that could really help us. We just don't know where to start with it. And so hopefully today, this lays a great foundation for all of you out there that are looking for those extra things you can do to supplement your training outside of technique classes, right? So
Right.
in your observation, what is the biggest challenge dancers are facing today, and how can we better support them in those challenges?
Specific to training and
Yeah,
breathing,
yeah,
I think that, as I said before, if I sum up Reader's Digest one word, awareness, I think it's just increasing awareness of how important the breath is, and that maybe, during that particular dancing activity, it's hard to slow down and breathe correctly, but it's what we do before and it's what we do after, and it's what we do our training leading up to that. That's going to make us recover quicker. It's going to reduce our risk of injury, and that's huge. It's also going to reduce muscle soreness. It's putting our body in a better state of health so that we can continue to do what we love for a longer period of time. And I think more awareness needs to take place about breath work.
yeah. I think the challenge for dancers that I'm seeing today is that there's everything is about time, right? We're trying to fit in so much, and everybody has the same 7 days a week, but when you weigh it out, first of all, there's a tendency to choose the additional ballet class or the additional technique class over, spending 30 minutes focusing on journaling and breath work and, when you weigh out the training at a studio. And plus, you can monetize a technique class, right? It's not as easy to monetize a class where you're talking about breath work or mindset skills. And so I think the challenge for dancers is, they're probably not getting enough of this in their training because studios are always going to prioritize the technique classes. And I think there's a
True.
fundamental shift that needs to happen at the studio level. And I feel bad because I feel like it always comes back to the teachers and the studio directors. They have a big job. They have a lot on their shoulders. But I think it really comes back to the studio level and the responsibility of incorporating these things into every single night of training, right?
Correct. They could incorporate it into the training on a regular basis, into the regular training.
Yeah.
And it starts also, yes, the studio directors and the performers, the instructors, but also the parents. And
Yeah.
as far as monetizing it, one of the classes that I teach for Lifetime Athletic, which is live stream internationally, is probably my most popular class, and it's myofascial release and breathing.
Yeah.
And at first, people were like, "What is this? I don't
Right.
know." I have a waiting list now of people that
Well,
want
you've
more.
done some for our
Crazy.
Insta Live, our free Insta Live classes that we do on Friday, I mean daily live content, but you have done them on Fridays where you've done myofascial release, and I've watched, and I've even done some of it where it's just it feels amazing. It makes a huge difference in the way you feel coming out of that. Going into it and coming out, you feel completely different. So I
You
will
do.
attest to that. But I think, again, it's one of those things, if you don't know about it's easy to just go, I'll worry about that later. You just
Right.
never get to it. We have a couple comments and questions that are coming in. Thank you all so much for engaging, and I'll get to those here in just a second. But before we get to those questions, so you talk about evidence-based life hacks that make, small changes and small impacts that ultimately add up to making a huge impact on the way we feel, the way that we train, our efficiency and our productivity as athletes. What are some of your favorite hacks to share with dancers that are easy to incorporate in their regimen?
Well, first off, let me talk about evidence, because
Yeah.
some people find that really boring, and
Yeah.
I'm a nerd and I love evidence.
We're all about that.
So the reason that it's important is because, I used to say to my yoga teacher trainees, because I'm big into yoga and also just an advocate for research. I used to say, if standing on your head in a corner, drinking a glass of water made you feel better, then as long as it's not illegal, immoral, or whatever, go ahead and do it. Now, what if I showed you a study a randomized controlled trial where they took 5,000 people and 90% of the people did that and they got the benefit. So if you weren't used to that particular activity and you went on and you looked at the research and you were deciding what way to go and you went, wow, 90% of the people got a benefit doing this, then that would be your first route of choice to start. So the same thing with breath work and just being aware of your inhales or exhales and trying to perform what's called deep diaphragmatic breathing. And we'll talk about that. The research is there showing, if you want to look, that even just spending a couple minutes per day is going to make a benefit. And another interesting research that I just thought of too is they studied people who used a certain breathing tool to help them breathe. We've all probably seen pictures. They have them on Amazon's of these tubes you breathe into, and you can expand the ball or a balloon that will go up and down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, they took a group of women and they separated them into Pilates practitioners and ones that just did the breath work. The ones that just did the breath work actually improved their core strength faster and also their breathing efficiency faster than the Pilates people.
Wow.
So this is out. I mean, this is out there. The research is out there. So as far as evidence-based hacks, there's not research saying that doing this breathing is better than this type of deep breathing. Deep, slow, diaphragmatic breathing is the technique in general that they're showing has this overall health benefit.
So what does it look like? Like, what does that look like for a dancer? I'm a dancer. I go to the studio 5-6 days a week. What is that? Is this all the time they should be engaging? Anytime they can think about it and be aware of it in this breathing? Or is there a specific time that, you know, if you spend this much time focused on this every day? Or like, what does that look like to put into your routine?
It's both. It's both. I think it is part of your dynamic warm up, because when we're doing that deep diaphragmatic breathing, we're increasing oxygenation and we're also engaging the core. And we need that as dancers because the core, as we've talked about on our different IG lives, shares the same attachments with our breathing muscles and also our leg muscles. So it's really important that we spend time to engage and be aware of the breathing that will take us through our exercises in our class. And yes, it is during the training, just calling awareness to that. And I'll often do that in the middle of class. You know, what's your belly doing? What's your tummy doing? What's your breathing like right now? So of course you can't do that during a performance, but there are ways to sneak it in during the regular training that's just going to benefit you. And it's slow. The most important thing is instead of breathing through the chest, it's breathing through the lower part of the torso, engaging the diaphragm and slowing down the rate of breathing.
Yeah. And that reduces anxiety too, you said earlier, right? Like, so.
Absolutely. Stress, anxiety, the evidence has shown it decreases depression as well. So these are important things: stress, anxiety, depression.
Well, it's great news to hear you saying this because you know, initially we were talking about when we first started this conversation that it's always hard to get teachers and educators to adopt something new that's outside of their comfort zone. But this really isn't that far off because they can really do this. They can put this into and incorporate this into what they're already doing in their classes and just putting an emphasis and a focus on what does your breath look like? What is your stomach doing? What is your core doing? What are you doing to make sure that you're aware of this?
Yes. And then explaining the education, we need to educate and explain why we're doing this. Like, why is it important to engage the core? Why should I be worried about my breath? So it's the education behind and doing a little deeper dive, exactly what we're talking about today. When people understand that, it's a no-brainer.
Not to put you on the spot, but do you, if somebody wanted to go look up more, do you have any resources or websites where you could direct people to go and just kind of find this information, or should they just Google breath work for athletes?
Plug to my Instagram, because I'm always posting stuff repetitively about this information, citing specific research. But one of the best it's called a clearinghouse for research. It's called PubMed, and it's through the National Institutes of Health. And if you put in PubMed and you do a Google search on that, go to the website. They have a search engine, a search bar like Google, and you can type in breath, breathing, breath work, core, and it'll come up with the research. And there's a hierarchy of research too. So if something's just a case study or it's written in a magazine, we sort of consider that lower on the totem pole. But if you go to PubMed and you read a little bit into these studies, even just the abstracts, and they're talking about hundreds of people and talking about the control groups and what they've tried, and that's a legitimate study. That's legitimate.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. I'm typing this in, and just for everybody who's wondering, it's the Fit Chick on Instagram, right? That's the handle.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And she posts tons of information and resources all the time. Amazing resource for anybody into fitness, wellness, being your best self. This is a great resource for you guys just to go to her Instagram. So at the Fit Chick. And I put that here in the chat on Insta and also in the comments here on Facebook. So a couple questions or a comment for Gina McFadden. Thank you for watching. Gina says, I use the breathwork app. It takes 40 seconds to do the shortest exercises. Starting class with a breathing exercise would be a great idea. So that's great to know there's apps that help you with this as well.
There are apps that will help you with this if that is your comfort level and people want to do that. Some people are just like another app, really.
Right.
So what I've talked about on our previous lives is you could just go to your phone and go to a timer setting and do it this way. You can time your inhales and your exhales.
How long should they be?
The goal for, well, let me back up a little bit. You should aim for an exhale that is at least 1.5 times of your inhale. So let's say you're breathing 5 seconds on an inhale, then your exhale should be 7 or 8 seconds, or preferably double the amount of time. The goal, which I haven't, in full disclosure, I haven't gotten to recently because I'm a free diver. So I used to be really, really good at my breathing and holding my breath. But state of the world, I haven't done that lately. The goal is an exhale of 20 seconds. I've gotten 18.
That's pretty intense. I mean, it doesn't seem like a lot, but that's a lot. I just did like 7, and yeah, that's a lot.
It is a lot, but think of it this way. So, in fact, a instructor mentee that I was helping yesterday with yoga, and particularly Ashtanga yoga, is very breath focused, which is another thing. Not to go off on a tangent, but
no, it's okay. We do that all the time.
Okay, great. Me too. If you want an exercise or an activity that's going to help you with your breath, yoga at its foundation is not using our body to get into the poses, but it's using the poses to get into our body, and it's breath work. So if you're taking a yoga class that doesn't focus on that, probably is not the best yoga.
Right. Look for a focus on breath work. Okay.
Right. Exactly. So in this particular trainee was saying, we have to do these 5 breaths in a pose. And I said, even if you just do breath for 10 seconds, 5 breaths, that's almost a minute.
Right.
And that is going to seem like excessive. It really isn't. 10 seconds for a breath. But when we stop and actually focus on our breath, we're realizing that we're breathing very shallowly, and our inhales are probably even less than 5 seconds. So the evidence is there to show that if we slow down our breathing, the length of our inhales and exhales matter, and particularly our exhales. If we can increase the length of our exhales, that's actually a sign of better health.
Oh my gosh. So I'm sitting here just like as you're talking, trying to be aware of how I'm breathing, and I'm not doing well. I need to practice. I do. It's not something I think about at all. And again, with the amount of stress that I have in my daily life, like I need to be doing that. I'm going to do
but
it.
you
That's
have
going to be
awareness. You
yeah.
have
Well,
awareness, and
now.
that's
Yeah.
key.
Yeah.
That's key. Another, this is just a inexpensive little hack, but our breathing rate is tied into our heart rate. So sometimes that's easy for people to focus on. It's impossible for you to have a high heart rate if you're breathing slow and activating your parasympathetic nervous system. If you're having something like that, or what we would call that in the medical field is like tachycardia, a high heartbeat, there's something wrong. But these little oxygen regulators, it's a little digital thing you can get on Amazon, and it will tell you what your heart rate is. And the fascinating thing too is you can use this to slow down your breathing, and it will also tell you the percentage of the oxygenation in your blood.
Cool.
So these are on Amazon. They're cheap. They're less than $20. And so right now, because I'm talking, my oxygenation saturation rate's like 96, but still that's pretty good.
What is it called? What is that little gadget
called? Let me, okay, talk to your neighbor. Let me.
If you're just joining, I'm Bree with Apollo. I'm chatting with Dr. T. Doman today about why we need to focus on breath work in training our dancers. It's something that is seemingly such a small thing, but it makes a huge impact overall on our health, mental and physical. We're talking about all kinds of like life hacks you can do to focus on your breath work day in and day out. And the key is to do it as consistently as possible and try to be aware of your breath work. Awareness is the key. First thing that you should be doing, according to Dr. T, is awareness, which I am now aware.
Yes.
And I'm terrible at it.
Yes.
So I'm going to practice and you're going to practice with me. But okay, so what is it called? The little gadget on Amazon.
So it's called, and I found it, it's a finger pulse oximeter. So Oximeter, it's less than $20. You could also put in oxygen monitor. You can also find for breathing exercises, those tools where you push up the ball.
Yeah.
Or
they make you do that sometimes
balloon
before you leave the hospital. Like you have to make sure that you're,
Correct.
you get the ball up there. I had to do that
But
when
this is really interesting. Unfortunately, with the second wave of COVID going around, and we know just so many more people are impacted by it, vaccinated or not, doesn't matter. And I'm not going to get into that, but
that's another day.
Right. That's another day, but this is respiratory, and this is immunity. This is overall health. So a lot of people are finding that they're very fatigued when they're coming back to their activities.
Yeah.
And this is a great way to, once again, see, how am I breathing? What's my heart rate? How am I responding to the breath work that I'm doing? What are my lungs doing? This is a great little objective functional tool.
Love
cheap.
That. It is a finger pulse oximeter on Amazon, less than $20. Check that out. So we have one more question and then we're going to move on to the last segment. Is there, from Liz Kessler, our dear friend Liz. Hi, Liz. Thank you for watching. Is there any way to undo the impact of years of stress and trauma, or are you just always more at risk of getting sick later on? Can breath work undo that? Can it undo some of those results?
It can, as far as objectively giving you the data on certain percentages. I don't have that.
That's okay.
Think of it like smoking, right? So if a person quits smoking, they are able to reverse some of the negative changes that they've made within their body over a period of time. Now, everybody's individual, so we don't know. There's a couple interplay factors as far as genetics, what your lifestyle was like before. Certainly any time that you could start breath work, the effects are going to be cumulative. So you can get better, but what's the alternative? Is it not doing it and then potentially having an increased risk of these chronic diseases? So I do believe that there is an undoing factor. It's just the degree of which we don't know.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks. So again, just joining, I'm Bree with Apollo, chatting with Dr. T. Doman today about why breathwork is important for training our dancers. You know, for dance educators who are constantly struggling to balance the importance of technique training with other equally important forms of training, like mindset skills, cross training, breathwork, etc., what do you want to say to them to encourage them to choose one of these alternative training methods or more to incorporate into their technique classes? What is the one thing you would say to them if you could convert them in this moment?
I would, if I could convert them, I would just say this is going to result in healthier dancers and healthier people that are going to be able to return as repeat clients.
Yeah.
So if somebody is out because they're unhealthy, or somebody's out
Great
because
point.
they're injured, that's not going to be a source of income for you. So I hate to bring it back to the business of dancing, but we are all business owners, and this is a fact.
Yep.
So these are again small little changes that you could start to incorporate in all your trainings. If you wanted to dive deeper and have a workshop, if you wanted to give out educational information about it, great. But these are small little things that you could incorporate now that's going to result in healthier people. And ultimately, that's what we want.
That's the goal. That's our common goal, right? It's the thing that unites us. So, you know,
Yes.
I have noticed there seem to be two different frames of mind when it comes to educators, directors, and methods of teaching, right? There's the people that are like, I am the teacher, and this is, I have the experience, I have the knowledge, I have the understanding, and you're going to do what I say. And then there's the teachers that are like, but my kids don't want to. And they think this is silly, and I can't convince them that this is like to do this. Like, I was more when I was doing my, and sometimes it was a blessing and sometimes it was a curse, but I was more of the, I am the director and you're going to do what I tell you to do. And
Right.
we can discuss it and we can have an open door policy, but at the end of the day, you're doing it because I said this is what you're doing. But there are some people that don't operate that way. There are some people that, well, my kids just don't want to do that. What do you say? It can be really hard with especially preteen students who are, you know, very skeptical and very annoyed, or don't do something until, you know, a influencer says it's cool, right? Like, how do you get them to buy into the breath work?
So how do we get preteens and teenagers to follow everything we want them to do?
Right. Well, yeah, essentially, because
Right.
that they're like, this is silly. Like, I'm not going to do that. You know, like
Right.
people
Right.
hear that. That's a thing, you know?
Well,
So,
maybe they don't do it at home because we can't make them do everything. But if they're doing it in the studios, if it is a teacher like you or I, or a director of a studio like you or I would do, then we're sort of making them do that. And hopefully the more that we talk about this, maybe there will be some influencers that will pick up on it. I don't think we should abandon the practice because some people are going to refuse. That's just going to happen everywhere. And I
keep talking about it in class, even if they're not
right.
going to do it. At least if you're talking about it every single day in every single class and you're doing it, eventually some of
Right.
that is going to catch on, right? I mean,
Well, and this is cutting edge right now. I mean, it's as old as time, but the research on it is cutting edge and it's undeniable. So this is almost the equivalent of you going to a doctor right now that you hurt your back and he just says go on bed rest. And that still happens. And we know that there's evidence out there to the contrary, that the worst thing you could probably do as an athlete or a dancer is just go on bed rest. You're going to be worse off. But there's still people saying that. So, and there's still people that are going on bed rest. So, you know, the more education, the more awareness, the more people talking about it, the more people are changing. You know, you or I know that if a doctor then tells us, oh, here, take this pill or go on bed rest, we're going to think he's really not up with the times. She is really not up with the times. And I'm going to find somebody else that's a little more cutting edge.
absolutely. And before we go to homework, the great news again about all of this is, even if you're a parent or a dancer and you're part of a studio that maybe doesn't buy into all of the, the more of the cutting edge techniques, the mindset skills, the breath work, the cross training, what have you. It's more traditional based. You can still work on these things at home and be proactive in your training at home. And it's something that you can do on your own. You don't need to be, and you can engage in that on your own in your classes without permission from anybody else. You can do that. And we learned that today, all the things that you can do just in your own little bubble, in your own little box to get better at this. I mean, I've been doing it sitting in this chair, so you can do it in any of your classes without permission from anybody else. So that is great news. But so we're all about homework. So we learned a lot today. We talked about a lot today, but we like to give our viewers and our audience homework, something they can work on right now between now and next week. So 7 days to make changes and make a small impact in their life in this area. So what's your one thing that you would give for homework today?
Can I give 2?
Sure. Sure. You get a bonus assignment.
I get a bonus because it's a Friday.
Yep.
So bonus assignment is to be aware of your breath and putting a hand on your chest and your lower abdomen and just becoming aware of where are you inhaling? Are you inhaling in your chest? You need to be inhaling to the hand that you placed on your stomach.
Okay.
And I know that is a big thing too with people like, oh, I got to hold my stomach in the whole time. The beginnings of breath work is actually distending the abdomen and pushing it out on an inhale. So that's the first part. So it's just becoming aware.
Pushing it out on an inhale.
Yeah, pushing it out on an inhale. So we're
it should be in the
diaphragm,
abdomen, not the chest.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
It should be in the abdomen and not the chest.
I am
and also
I'm just all wrong. I'm all wrong.
Awareness, Bri, awareness.
I'm doing it wrong.
So then the other thing is, this stuff is free. We talked about using your phone or some kind of stopwatch and just have a general idea of what the duration of your inhales and exhales are. Are you a 5-second breather? Are you a 10-second breather? Are you taking longer inhales and less of an exhale? We need to reverse that. So 2 awareness things, the hand method on your breathing and also using the timer on your phone and just becoming aware of how you're breathing.
And get to that 20-second goal, that 20-second exhale, right? That's
reach out to us. If somebody can do that,
my gosh.
I would
Let's
love.
We'll do a live.
20 seconds.
We're gonna do a live. If you hit a 20-second exhale, we're gonna do a live to see it on Instagram. So DM us if you get
great.
There.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Because Dr. T gets to 18 and she's like the master at it. So, but no, thank you. So you have homework. You're also going to take, if you haven't done it already, the STEPS Initiative course. It is completely free. I will link that after this conversation is over, but it lives on our website. You can go at your own pace. It's going to tackle everything from gender inequity. Liz Kessler says she's about a 5. So Liz, you're probably like 2 better than me. So yay. But anyway, the course is going to talk about gender inequity, racism, the psychology, nutrition, dance, medicine, and science, one of our favorite topics. And you're going to go at your own pace, take it for free. It's going to give you evidence-based research and resources for you to kind of continue to pursue education on your own, but hopefully lay that foundation for you so that we can incorporate these things into our training, in our studios, and make sure we have happy, healthy, safe dance spaces for everybody. That is the goal, like Dr. T said in the beginning. We're also going to link a 25% off code for a YPAD certification course. They are doing great things for educators to keep kids happy, healthy, safe, and dance. And we have a 25% off code for you. I will link that again after this is over. And Dr. T, is there anything else you want to share with the audience or remind them where to look or go? I know we talked about the oxygen the Oximeter, right? I put it in
Oximeter, correct.
the
Pulse
Oximeter on
oximeter.
Amazon. PubMed you gave. We're going to go follow Dr. T at the Fit Chick on Instagram because she has tons of resources there about breath work and other things that you need to know about as a dancer and athlete. So make sure you follow her there. And you do consults, right? You do, correct me if I'm wrong, but you work with educators. So if you're an educator out there that's like, I don't even like, I mean, this is great, but like, how do I incorporate this into what I'm doing? Dr. T can help. How do they get a hold of you for that?
Yeah, also on Instagram, the link in my bio, the link tree will take them
Right.
right there.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And I will link those as well. I'll find those and link them at the end of this. But we are, we're excited. This is another thing. It's easy. This is easy. That is the great news about breath work is that after today, like I went into this thinking like this is a whole nother thing that you have to learn and understand in it. But this is so easy to incorporate into what we're already doing. It just seems silly not to. And the benefits far outweigh, there's no risk. I mean, it's all benefit. So why not do this if you're an athlete, right? So Dr. T, thank you so much for joining me for giving your knowledge and experience and teaching us all today. It was so helpful. And I hope you all got something out of it as well. I know I did. So thank you.
No, thank you as well. And thank you for having this platform and for Apollo focusing so much on health and wellness. And like you say, the socks are for people with feet. I mean, these programs that you put on are for everybody.
Yeah,
everybody.
it's our love. We do serve everyone with feet, but our love is dance. I mean, our community,
Yes.
that's our love letter is all of this is our love letter to the dance community. And that's how we started. That's where Apollo came from. It's our roots. So everything we do is out of love for that community. And so thank you all for watching and engaging. And we are booking for 2022. We're booked solid through 2021. We have great guests lined up for the end of the year, but we want to know, what do you want to hear about? What do you want to learn about? What guests do you want to hear from that maybe we haven't had on before? DM us on Instagram, or you can message us, info@apolloperformance.com. We would love, love, love to hear from you. Our goal is to talk about topics that are affecting you right now in the studio, things that we can help with. Maybe you're not sure what direction to go. I want to know more about this because it's interesting to me, but I don't know enough. What is that so we can help? Again, message us, DM us. We want to hear from you. And our next episode is next Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern, October 22nd. We're going to be talking about the most important tools and services for performance athletes. We're talking again with Dr. Stephen Karaginis of Restorative Physical Medicine, and he's going to be talking to us about all the things outside of the studio that dancers can take advantage of, tools and services that can help them perform at maximum efficiency and make sure you're staying happy, healthy from mind, body, soul, inside out, head to toe. So join us next Friday with Dr. Stephen Karaginis, and we will see you there. In the meantime, you have homework to do, and we hope you continue your journey beyond the steps. Thank you all so much. Bye. Thank you, Dr.
Thanks,
T.
everyone. Have a great weekend.
Bye.
Bye.